A check of what's making news. I'm Errol Barnett at CNN Center. Stay with us for a special CNN program, Witness to Uprising, starting right now.
Iran was my home. I grew up in Iran.
I had the best childhood I could ask for in Iran. But obviously, things changed in 1979 with the Islamic Revolution.
There were protests on the street, there were demonstrations, there were strikes, there was confrontations. And nobody really knew at the time how this was going to end up.
What's remarkable is many of the things the protesters today are calling for, the same things the protesters in the 1979 revolution were calling for. The Islamic Revolution in Iran in 1979 changed everything drastically and suddenly. Here was a country, there was a monarchy led by the Shah, backed by the U.S. And the Shah's opponents called him a dictator. They called him a puppet of Washington. They say he wasted his money on a lavish lifestyle, and he lived an un-Islamic lifestyle. And in came Ayatollah Khomeini, who led the Islamic Revolution, calling for change, and he made this an Islamic republic.
But 31 years of this system has created deep, deep, deep resentments in some sectors of society. There are people who do not like their government, who loathe it. And then there are others who are fierce defenders.
The Iranian government will tell you that Iran is a free country, that you can do whatever you want as long as it abides by the principles of Islam. But when you talk to a lot of Iranians, they complain about the lack of freedoms. A lot of Iranians have access to Western culture through the internet, through TV, through illegal satellites that are everywhere in Tehran. So they want the freedom that they see in that Western culture. But in Iran, for example, you can't wear whatever you want to wear, especially if you're a woman. You have to wear hijab, the Islamic headscarf. You can't hold hands. You can't hold your girlfriend's hands. You can't listen to rock and roll or rap music in public. You can't dance if you're a woman in public. In Iran, if you're a woman, you can't attend a football match. More than 70% of Iran's population is under 30. And much of this population simply doesn't connect with the ruling clerics, the ideology of the Islamic Republic.
Many in the West believe that if only they could, Iranians would have another revolution. That is not clear at all. What they want is a reform of the system. They want more democracy. They want more political representation. They want less strict controls of how they live their political lives.
I was in Iran a few months before the elections of June 2009, and when you talk to Iranians a few months before the elections, to them it was a foregone conclusion that Mahmoud Ahmadinejad was going to win again, and there's nothing they could do about it.
It doesn't make any difference?
No, generally it doesn't make difference for me.
No difference, right?
No difference.
Are you going to vote?
Maybe.
But then in the last 10 days to 2 weeks before the election, things really got mixed up.
It was a different vibe. We noticed that people were were emboldened.
For the first time, there were debates between the candidates broadcast to the whole country on Iranian state television. And it really was something unprecedented to see President Ahmadinejad challenged by Mir Hossein Mousavi, by Mehdi Karoubi, and the main political opponents. And this suddenly changed the dynamic of the election.
And I think a lot of the viewers saw this as a sign that perhaps they were now able to criticize individuals, able to criticize the ruling elite.
People here who are old enough to remember and to have marched in the Islamic Revolution 30 years ago say this is the biggest turnout they've seen since then.
30 years of frustration is exploding, says Mohammed, a mechanical engineering student. Even if Ahmadinejad wins, we're just here to express our opposition.
There came a wave of support from Mir Hossein Mousavi and a reemergence of hope with the moderates, with people who wanted change in Iran.
Suddenly people started to come out in the streets in political campaigning in a way that Iran had never seen before.
And some of the rallies that we attended in Iran, they were absolutely electric. And that's when you saw the so-called Green Movement. The supporters of Mir Hossein Mousavi with their trademark green banners, green wristbands, green outfits. And the mood in some of these rallies was electrifying. And you can see the hope in people's faces. And you started to feel that maybe there's something to this. Maybe there's a chance that Mir Hossein Mousavi can come in and topple Mahmoud Ahmadinejad. So all of a sudden, these elections that didn't have much suspense to them a few weeks earlier, now we're building up to something very interesting.